what's up? So on Friday, I did a reflective video looking at the last year of Fortnite and ranking the top 10 best moments. Now that to me was a really heartfelt video and I had a lot of fun making it, but you all knew that this was coming. In this video, we're going to be looking at the top 10 worst moments of Fortnite 2019, and if I'm being honest, this list was a lot easier to make. 2019 has been a little bit more missed than hit, and there were a lot of issues with Fortnite this year. Now, lastly, before we do get into it, make sure to subscribe to the channel or I will be lighting your Christmas presents on fire. Other than that though, let's do this. So I figured we'd start off our number 10 spot with something that happened almost a year ago now, and this was actually the Ice Storm event. Now, for those of you that don't remember, the Ice Storm event was the big Season 7 event and has really gone down in history as probably one of the worst events of all time. The thing that made this so bad wasn't one specific thing, but I feel like there were a few issues with the event. So first and foremost, the event itself wasn't as exciting as some others. You had the Ice King in a projection of himself, not even really him, and it just felt a little bit less awing than some of the ones in the past. Kind of like compared to the rocket flying around or the butterfly event. On top of that, what he actually did in the event was cover the entire map in snow, which had just been done a few days before for Christmas. Any hype that this could have generated was absolutely killed, seeing as it had already been done. I don't know what they were thinking, but it really killed the excitement having to see this event for the second time. And everything I've talked about so far was just disappointing. We haven't even got to the bad stuff yet. It covered the map in snow and fog, meaning that basically at certain points throughout the game, you couldn't see 5 feet in front of you, and on top of that, zombie husks had returned. It was just not a fun time for Fortnite. Now moving on to number 9, I want to talk about a little thing called Siphon. So do you guys remember at the start of 2019 when they introduced this new thing that basically made it so that every time you got a kill, you would get more health? And in the exact same stroke, they also made it that harvesting was a whole heck of a lot faster, but you could only harvest 1,500 materials. Yeah, I don't know, like the perfect version of Fortnite maybe, in my opinion anyways. So I really love this version of Fortnite, and it ultimately went on to become arenas, which is fine. But when this got removed, I just remember being so sad. I was loving that version of Fortnite, and thinking that it would never come back just had me like, dude, they are so stupid. Why would they remove this? Overall, the arena aspect of pubs being removed from pubs was a very bad moment for the year. It got fixed, but at the time, it really sucked. Now moving on to number 8, let's keep talking about Season 7. So do you guys remember planes? Because I remember planes. I don't even know if you can really call this a moment because it's a thing that went on for an entire season. Planes. What I would say about planes is really the thing that bothered me was the moment that I realized that planes were not getting vaulted for the season. I think it was because there was something related to challenges, which meant that they were not ever going to get removed. And that was really sad for me. Planes were just a very bad aspect of Fortnite. Not quite as bad as brutes, but just that moment realizing like, we're stuck with these till the end of the season was pretty sad. They did eventually nerf them a little bit, I think. I hope, did they? I don't know. Overall though, it really sucked. Okay, now moving on to number 7, let's talk about another really awful realization. So when Season 9 rolled around, one of the most exciting things was the new tilted towers known as Neo Tilted. It was huge, it was crazy, it was innovative, and after a few days, the entire community realized that it sucked. And as far as I'm concerned, that was a really low point for Fortnite. I guess that what I would classify this moment as is when you realized that Neo Tilted sucked and one of the most legendary locations ever was now gone. The removal of tilted towers was something that I think had to happen for Epic to move on with their game, but man, it was sad. Had Neo Tilted been good, maybe this would have been okay, but overall it was just not a well-received location. Ultimately, nobody dropped there, which completely destroyed the purpose of what Tilted Towers was, and it was sad. If there's one location I would honestly love to come back, it would be Tilted, which I know is insane to say, but that would be pretty cool. here's at least hoping that in the next few months we get a new Tilted. Now, finally, moving on to number 6, we've got something from Season 10. Oh, Season 10, probably the worst season of all of Fortnite. Yeah, absolutely the worst season of all of Fortnite. Not even a debate. The first thing actually on this list about Season 10 was the nerf to turbo building. So this was only over the period of about a day or two, but I think this was one of the lowest points for Fortnite and Epic Games in 2019. Basically, they were trying to make the game more fair to people who had high ping so that when taking walls, it wasn't completely, I don't know, let's say, dependent on having really good internet. And the way they tried to fix this issue was by just simply nerfing turbo building, which essentially destroyed the entire mechanic of building. Everything that pros had known and learned on how to build was completely gone because they just had a different system now of how quickly you could place stuff down. So you couldn't crank 90s anymore, do all these crazy fancy things because the timing was all messed up. Now, pros were outraged, streamers were outraged, even the general community who was slightly more than casual were outraged. It was a really rough time for players and Epic caught a ton of flack for this. They fortunately pushed it back, but during this time, it was bad. And actually, you know what? While we're on the topic of Season 10, let's keep going and let's talk about all the locations of that season. So one of the really neat things related to storyline and gameplay for Season 10 was that the storyline made it so that any place could come back and it would make sense. And I know that Fortnite isn't really all that much about the story, but I did think it was a pretty cool little way they managed to make that work. So originally we got OG Factory and Dusty Depot back, and that was great. But what happened a few weeks or even maybe a month or two later was not great. So a few places returned. We had Moisty Mire, the prison, Greasy Grove. So we had a few places return, but definitely the worst offenders was Moisty Palms, which was Moisty Mire originally, and Greasy Grove, both returning with very weird mechanics. Every time you would crouch in the prison or Moisty Palms, you would turn into an inanimate object. And every 30 seconds or so, you would start dancing in Greasy Grove. Yeah, I'm sure it's coming back to you. It wasn't really that long ago. And this was another thing that really just continued to make me hate Season 10. I was really looking forward to new locations coming back, and then it was like, oh, yeah, no, I don't even want to drop here because they were just so awful. It was just another really bad moment in what can overall be seen as a really awful season. Now, moving on to number 4, it's the vaulting of the pump. So just want to note on how funny it is, the magnitude of a single weapon getting vaulted, but I mean, come on, it's one of the most iconic weapons ever. No weapon has ever truly filled the place of close range weapon as well as the pump throughout all of Fortnite, and in Season 9, it got vaulted. The pump was taken out and the combat shotgun, a much more overpowered weapon, was added in. I've talked about it before, but this basically made it so that this was the only viable shotgun you could use, and if you didn't get one of them, well, you were going to die. The tac shotgun didn't shoot as fast or as far, and the drum shotgun was doo-doo, so you were basically just going to die if you didn't get one. On top of that, they had a much higher rarity, so it was a lot harder to come across one, and really, the removal of the pump and introduction of the combat shotgun just completely threw the game off. Season 9 is overall classified as a really good season for a lot of people, but the removal of the pump was one of the worst things that ever happened. I want to think of another comparison that kind of makes sense, and I want to say it would be like taking out maybe the Scar, but it would be even more monumental than that. It would be like taking out all the assault rifles, except for the gold Scar. So anyone who finds a gold Scar is really lucky in that sort of range, and everyone else just gets absolutely shredded at medium range. But like that on steroids because it's close range, which is the bread and butter of Fortnite. It was bad. Let's move on. All right, so moving on to number 3, some people may consider this one of the best moments for gaming in 2019, but for Epic, and I'm sure maybe some Fortnite fans, this was when Minecraft took over. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you guys didn't think I would mention this, or a lot of people were gonna make this joke in the comments section.
Oh, it was when Fortnite died.
But as far as for Fortnite is concerned, this was obviously a very bad moment. There was a moment on Google Trends when Minecraft search results peaked over Fortnite, and this was basically the moment where people said, Minecraft has killed Fortnite. PewDiePie was back playing the game and just blowing it up bigger than ever, and really, it was not looking good for Fortnite. This was during Season 10 when the game was already in the bucket, and like just seeing that was almost like what people thought to be the final nail in the coffin. I think really Chapter 2 did quite save Fortnite from that and has been a little bit rocky, but certainly the Minecraft summer was a big blow to this game. And actually, moving on to number 2, why don't we talk about Chapter 2? I mentioned in the last video how much I loved the launch of Chapter 2, but in this video, I want to talk about how much I've kind of hated the rest of Chapter 2. I just really haven't been putting a lot of time into the game because it's been very stale. And I think we've just made it out of the period I want to talk to, as really with this new Christmas update, things are a little bit more fresh. But let's look at the last month. So basically between the launch of Chapter 2 and the Christmas update, one gun was added to the game, and that was it. There was just nothing. There were no changes, no new really anything. There was a Star Wars event, which was pretty boring, and that was it. But then what I think was the worst moment of Chapter 2 was realizing that a new season was not coming out in December. You see, in the Battle Pass, Epic had promised that a new season, or I guess the end of Season 1, was going to be sometime around like December 10th. And then like a week or two before that, it was revealed that we weren't getting a new season until February. Now that's still the case today, but it seems like Epic is updating stuff a little bit more now, which is great. My guess is they kind of just needed to take some time to get geared up for the next few months, because it's going to be really big for them. And November was kind of a weird month with new games coming out, so they're like, you know what, let's just kind of let go of the game, like let COD rise up, you know, a few other games coming out. And then once December starts rolling around, let's really get back into it. Regardless of that though, that whole dry spell of Chapter 2 was really awful, and I'm praying that it is officially over. But ladies and gentlemen, our number 1 spot. They hyped it as the greatest season of all time. Oh god, I'm going transit mode Pat here. Seriously though, they hyped it as the greatest season of all time. OG locations will be returning in Season X. But instead, we were given mechs. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I think the worst moment of Fortnite can be categorized as the moment you realized that mechs were broken. And if it wasn't that, it's certainly the moment you realized that Epic was not going to vault them. Mechs were truly the most broken thing to ever be introduced into Fortnite, and it completely ruined the game for me. Every single season of Fortnite, I've managed to get to at least level 60, usually like 65 and up, and I think with Chapter 10, I was like 35, which isn't like half the playtime, it's more like a quarter or like 20%. Season 10 was bad, and the moment mechs were introduced was truly the worst moment of 2019. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our list for today. What did you guys think of today's video? I hope you guys are enjoying this slew of content we've been pumping out. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, go check out another video because we've just uploaded a bunch in the last week. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you later. Peace out, you freaking nerds. So there were a few, but the thing that made